Welcome back, Nakul.
Thank you.
So, thanks for sharing about your childhood days and a lot of interesting stories on studios and different experiences you had as a student. So,
I'm still a student.
you're still a student. That's wonderful to know. What after DUS? You just spoke of Mukul asking you to sign up as a sound guy for DUS,
Right.
and you said that was your first Bollywood film.
Right.
So let's move on from there.
Well, on thus, unfortunately, Mukul passed away. He had a heart attack. But I did mix the album, which they wanted to do as a tribute, so which was, I think, Shankar Sansloy's first Bollywood film and soundtrack with Hindustani. And while I was doing advertising, Mahesh Mathai had made me write an article for the journal for the advertising boys. And I had said, why don't you start using actors instead of models for ad films? Because then you wouldn't have to dub them, because given what it was like with U-matics and locking machines together and then language dubs and things, it used to be chaos. So Mahesh said, like, all right, why don't we do an ad? So I said, sure. And so we took off to Ooty to shoot the 100 Pipers commercial. Can you hear the sound of the pipers? And damned if we got there and realized that the agency had chosen 2 Australians to play these Scottish guys. So I think Mahesh and me drank a fair amount of the malt whiskey at the bar at the Taj in Ooty. And once we'd got reasonably pickled, we gave them our impression of what a Scottish accent should be like. And that's what we used. I mean, I recorded it on a Nagra, got a lot of the ambiences there. And people for a long time believed that it had actually been shot in Scotland. They had no clue. But yeah, anyway, so did that for Mahesh. And then a few years later, he says, I'm doing a film and I want to do location sound. And I said, well, good luck, because I don't think anyone does location sound over here. So he said, no, good luck to you because you're doing it. So I said, listen, I haven't done a film. I've never done a full feature, And he says, well, I've never directed a feature. And I know you, so if something goes wrong, I can scream at you. And that's how Bhopal Express happened. There was no equipment available in this country. So it came in literally the day before shoot. Fostex PD6. I remember I had got Gulam on boom, and he had said, get a 416, 816, and I had read about it a little bit, and internet had just started, got on to Cinema Audio Society, and said, guys, studio engineer, going to do location film, need help, what mics, gear, what do you guys suggest? They suggested Electrosonics radios, and Sennheiser had just come out with an MKH 60 and 70, so I got those. And then this gentleman said, and for interior stuff, he preferred the tone of the Shepses. So I said, all right, so that's got the Shepses, and I'd seen them before on the Three Tenors, which was Pavarotti and gang doing that concert in Nice. And well, I'm diverting from the story, but many years later I was in Paris and met this gentleman who makes Cinella range of mounts. And what I didn't know was that he had made the teardrops for those Sheps mics which they used at the concert, because it was in Nice and very breezy. So what he had done was he had made in the foam, within the foam, he had a little plastic rig which allowed an airspace. So when the wind came through, it encountered air, so it didn't pop and it didn't blow. There's none of that low frequency air rumble,
Okay.
which was simple, but what a great idea.
Very innovative.
Yeah. Anyway, the person who wrote all these mails to me about what that I should use, what gear I should use, was a gentleman called Randy Thom, who a few years later became the lead mixer at Skywalker Ranch, and who's got dozens of Oscars and things. So I was very lucky that I got very good advice early on. And well, the gear came. We were in Hyderabad, pulled out everything, and guess what? There were no battery packs for the radio microphones. No chance of getting it. So I said, what do we do? And it was kind of like an executive decision that since we can't do anything else and we can't hire stuff here, we're just going to have to capture everything on booms. And so Mahesh was also the director and the DOP. So he framed where I could get in. Because I said, like, otherwise we're going to have to dub, it's going to be a mess. And it was all new, right? We were shooting in Hyderabad for Bhopal. Fantastic crew. Lots of would-be directors came from that crew. I mean, Apurva Lakhia was the first AD. Zoya Akhtar was on it. Homi Adajania was also on it. Sanjay Sami is now a grip who works with everyone. He does all the Wes Anderson films. He's just done Silence with Scorsese and a lot of other things. I think that became Mulchandan was the gaffer. That became kind of, later on, has become kind of the A crew, which does a lot of the Hollywood films. But yeah, so it was no radios, what do we do? And I always did prefer the sound of a boom over a radio.
Okay.
Radio mics cost you $300, boom microphones cost you $3,000. And it's not because of the size only. There's a sonic thing to it. I don't think any one microphone works for all situations. You need to have, if you use a shotgun in an interior room, it's not going to work because you're going to get echoes, because given the nature of how the microphone is created. Listening to those dialogues was, for me, it was like, wow, these Shepses sound awesome interiors. We were shooting on a station on Hyderabad platform number 1. 5,000 people around gathered because they thought Zeenat Aman was coming there.
Okay.
And Nasiruddin Shah, you're in awe of the man, obviously, because he's an extremely fine actor. And I suddenly started hearing the strange sound, and I was wondering, what the hell is it? And looked at my little monitor, and he was shaking the matchbox. And I went up to him and he said, so you're not getting anything usable in this scene? And I said, yeah, well, it is usable, but do you mind not shaking the matchbox? And he freaked out that I could hear that. And he said, I've got to hear this, I've got to hear this. And he came and it was, wow. After that, he was mine. I mean, I could ask him to do anything and it just made life really easy. That taught me that I had to have the actors on my side. I think the job of a location sound, I'm digressing again from thing, but I think the job of a location sound recordist is also where you've got to make your actors very comfortable. You've got to earn their trust. You've got to get them to the stage where they realize and understand that what you're doing is not, I think everyone goes through a sequence where you ask the actors to speak up because they're too soft.
Okay.
A lot of actors in this country especially will turn around and say, I can't do both. Either I can give you a performance or I can give you a dialogue delivery. To me, that's rubbish because you're an actor, do your job. So let me do mine. They were also used to the thing of saying, nahin, dubbing mein dekh lenge. sorry, the good actors I've worked with do not want to dub. People like Judi Dench, Maggie Smith, they'll actually come to Christian Bale, they'll come and say, is that okay because I don't want to dub? So once you understand their psychology and you explain to them that, look, I'm not really taking this home to listen to, I'm not that in love with you. I'm just doing this so that you sound good in a theater. That's what you're there for. Trust me that I'm trying to do this for you, not for me. I couldn't really give a shit, you know. They change their thinking pretty quick. So you've got to earn their confidence, and I think that it's earning their confidence and the confidence of your director, which really makes your job easier then, once you have that. And I think that's 90% of your job is that. You can't be sitting, being the guy sitting in the corner, like Anil Mehta said to me in Lagan. He said, oh, the sound guys, they're normally sitting in the corner and we don't see them or hear them or whatever. So I said, well, guess what? There's a new beast in town.
Right.
And just to prove my point to Mr. Mehta, at the first crew party which we had in Bhuj, which was a dry state, we got enough rum. And I got my boom ops to give his focus puller so much of that alcohol that he was chasing one of the other camera crews saying, I want your body, I want your body. And I think since that day, a lot of people realized, don't fuck with this sound crew.
So do you use special headphones?
I use the Sony 7506s, and now I'm using the newer ones.
Are they noise cancellation ones? Because
No.
Does that help?
You know what? To me, it's a reference, really.
Because when you're on Hyderabad platform, station platform, or in Bhuj or any such outer.
They are isolated to a large extent, but I'm also not so close to the action. I'm further away.
So how do you kind of see what's happening?
I've got a monitor in front of me. I've got a monitor which is a feed from the camera. So
does the DOP also hear what you are hearing?
Some of them do ask for it, yes. Again, there have been situations, well, I'll get to that later on. It's all a thing of working together, really. It's you've got to be part of a crew. A lot of DOPs here, it was, since they would been ruled for so long as they did everything, it was all about what's in front of camera. They didn't give a shit about sound. Luckily, I'm large enough and I've got a really loud voice, so that helps. Vinod Pradhan, I have told during Rang Day, I said, listen, he didn't want me smoking. In those days, I used to smoke. He said, no, you can't smoke in this thing. And I said, listen, what's your problem, He said, no, change his floor. So I said, no, wait a second. We need to have a drink, talk about this over a drink. And I went to his room and I said, what's your problem? So he said, I can't. So I said, well, that's tough. This is my release. I need it when I smoke. And he said, so I said, look, I'm a very large dog. You're a small dog, size-wise. You bark, I bite. Cut a long story short, by the end of it, that was the first schedule in Amritsar. The second schedule in Delhi, he asked for rooms next to each other. By the time we got to Jaipur, let me borrow a cigarette. By the time we got to Bombay, here are 3 lighters for you. So it's part of the game. It's you become friends.
It's like good bonding.
It's good bond. It really does help. With Anil Mehta on Lagan, the second day of shoot, where the horse comes in with the reading out the thing, and I'd set up plant mics and things, and he said, I want to hear this. What is this big thing about? I said, here, gave him the headphones, press play. He said, no, and he shouts because he's got headphones on, he doesn't realize how people tend to speak loudly. And he says, no, play what you think, recorded, not this live microphone. So I rewound again. Arey Baba, I'm telling you, play what you've recorded. I said, but I am playing what I've recorded. Do you see any horses? So he looked at me and says, from my days in FTI, there's no hiss which the Nagra I associate with the sound. After that day, anything I wanted, Anil would do. We were doing a scene where it's a really long track, and Anil lit all evening. Dinner was called. We went for dinner, and the wind picked up. Anil said, I need another couple of hours. And everyone was, why? What's going on? He said, no, I have to change something. I said, okay. Then after about half an hour, I went to join him to see what he was doing. He had paper filters on all his lights. He was changing the gels to make them where they wouldn't make any sound, because he suddenly was worried about the sound I would get. I looked at what the thing was, and I said, you know what, you've changed. I said, what have you done? And he says, I've changed the gels. I said, but it's not looking the same. It's not looking as warm as it was before. And he says, yeah, but you've got dialogue. So I said, no, I've got dialogue right at the end of it. It's one line. I can take a wild track of it and do it too. So he says, are you kidding me? So I said, no, I'm serious. So he said, thank you. And that's where a bond became. I mean, it has to be a bond between the cinematographer and the sound guy, because you're working for the film. If it was...
It's teamwork.
It's teamwork. If it's an emotional sequence, which I know is going to be murder to dub, I will put up a fight and say, no, I want to get this, figure it out, change your lighting, give me an angle, give me a place for a boom, whatever, Give me cutters, use whatever you need to. I need to get this, because it will be impossible for them to dub. And that's happened. I mean, Sharman Joshi breaking down on that scene in Jaipur. He said, I can't dub this. We tried and we tried and we tried.
So how do you manage in such scenes? And how do you know that this can be dubbed or not dubbed?
That was really bad news. It was really noisy, but thanks to Isotope and being anal about it and literally cutting in vowel by vowel to get it where it was smooth enough where he didn't have to dub it. Took me 10 days, but it was fully worth it because the performance didn't get hampered. Hrithik Roshan, in the film which they'd shot on a 235. I cleaned it up for him, 3 or 4 different versions where he speaks into the mirror. They had a pilot recording, and he said, I can't. He spent 3 months trying to dub it, and he couldn't. And I cleaned it up, and they used the very roughest of the cleanups which you couldn't. And because I said, with the wind and the ambience which you're going to be putting in, you can get away with it. Right. It's all about knowing how much you can get away with.
So when you're at the shoot and when the film is being shot and rehearsals are happening, you have to be present on the set.
Yes, yeah.
So in a way you're like a director yourself. In a sense, you're also looking at the film from a director's point of view.
Yeah.
Maybe the DOP's point of view, if you know where the camera is placed, though you're a little far away.
Yeah. You're also being a sound director in terms of, there are lots of times when I'll suggest where they should take a pause for breath in a line.
And are they okay with it, the actors?
I think now since I've got white hair, they've now started being really cool with that.
Okay.
And I think that also comes from having worked with a lot of voiceover people in advertising with Bridgie and all. So it's a masterclass really from there. And it does, because I've been through the script longer than they have for the most part. Even though they are their lines, they're always, the actors here aren't as, I don't think they rehearse as much as actors in the West do.
Okay.
But I do suggest sometimes that maybe you should be emphasizing this word or using that word. So if you want to emphasize that word, if you take a breath here, then you've got things so that it doesn't tail out.
So when does this interaction happen? During the rehearsal or?
No, after you hear the rehearsal, they never really do the rehearsal where it's a full performance.
Okay.
Indian actors.
Right.
If you're working on someone like Judi Dench, you could use any take. Their timing, it's just, they're so into it that it's literally like clockwork.
Right. So you have this interaction during the shoot or when there's a retake or?
Yeah.
Do you have to intervene sometimes and say, "Excuse me, I didn't get this right.
Yes.
You didn't.
Yes.
I didn't hear the dialogue." Or
If I got to the stage where I didn't hear the dialogue, then that's really bad news. Then I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
okay.
I mean, there might be certain noise, which we also do take a wild track of it, if there is noise.
How is that done? Wild track?
Immediately, well, this is the thing. I fight for it where it's done immediately after the thing, so they're still in the same flow and headspace.
Okay.
Sometimes the first lady might say like, no, we'll do it later. And I said, no, then don't bother. We'll just do it in the dubbing theatre, because by then they've forgotten the rhythm and the tempo of what their dialogue delivery is. So if they're in a rhythm and tempo, then I'd like to do it straight away, because then I get it. And then again, as I said, you just then like you're pulling out maybe 3 syllables for where the noise is,
Okay.
you know.